Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 94th episode of the HSBG Podcast. I'm your host, Educatedcollins, and I'm here with my constant co-host, Shady Bunny. Shady, how you doing?
I'm doing well,
You just
Collins.
wanted that again, I know.
Yeah, gotta milk every opportunity for that. Right? All for myself this time. All right, good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, we had a mild audio issue for the first take. So here,
it,
take two. You guys are getting this one.
it wasn't an audio issue to me. It was actually maybe
Yeah.
preferred. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
uh, but we definitely missed last week, right? Like that's the big thing, but not for no reason. We had a good cause. We participated in a Twitch Rivals community tournament. That was a lot of fun. I wasn't really sure I was gonna play, but Shady convinced me. He said there was no downsides, which I ended up agreeing with and decided to play. And we'll definitely talk about that later on. But we always start with our weekly overview, just kind of talking about how our week has been and things like that. How has yours been, Shady?
So in terms of the game, my weeks have not been amazing. I'm about down 600, let's say 5 to 600 over the last 2 weeks or so.
Mm-hmm.
I guess most of it was lost this week, and that's fine. I'm just trying to figure out what to do. I usually by this time in the meta, I've figured out the big picture of what I
Mm-hmm.
want to do, and I'm more just refining stuff
Right.
and making it more efficient. And I'd say right now there's still some big picture problems, but that's okay. Not every meta clicks as fast. I will be doing a little bit of VOD reviews. I've done those in the past if I
Mm-hmm.
feel like my progress isn't fast enough,
Right.
and I'll just learn from the people that have figured out. And
Mm-hmm.
there's no shame in that, of course. You got to learn from people that are doing better than you. Sometimes I'm the person doing better than the other people, and sometimes I'm not. So there you go. Just gotta be humble there, and I'll figure it out. It's also been fun to sort of just go to the drawing board without the pressure of, oh god, I got, like I can't just like lose the MMR. Whereas now it's just like, okay, well, I can try things, and because I'm not pushing for a Lobby Legends finish, it doesn't affect my mood nearly as much as it would if the points would matter a lot for a finish. So I'd say, yeah, totally fine. But yeah, in terms of my prowess in the game right now, a little less understanding.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. Usually when I'm struggling, I'm definitely more of a bang my head against the wall the player, just keep grinding until something I figure out a strategy that works for me. But yeah, I do also definitely try to learn from others when I'm really struggling. But those are like I I end up learning by osmosis since I'm casually watching people anyways. It's not like I'm watching to learn or something, but like when I'm playing, I'm just like also watching streams as well as playing. So you just see what other people are doing and you just like, oh, that's a cool idea. So it's not like I'm going in trying to learn from people, but just since I'm in the scene and I'm watching people, I just like, oh, that was a cool idea, and I just learned that way. So
Not quite as deliberate, but it'll
there
happen.
there have been some times where I deliberately wanted to learn, but they're pretty rare, I would say. But usually, like things have to be going really bad, and I have like no idea what to be doing. So it's not as like often. I can remember like 2 times or so where I'm like, okay, I'm lost, lost. I just like don't know. But my week's been good generally. I've been chugging along on the Snap train, just making sure that I'm releasing content every day, making sure that it's high quality. Not really slacking or getting lazy. I know the opportunity doesn't last like consistently. You won't have all the eyes on you forever. So just making sure take it while I have it, and it's been good.
Happy to hear that, man. Yeah, and I mean, there's no real reason for the opportunity to fade if you're taking advantage of it, right? But yeah, if you're not capitalizing, if you're not putting out the best content you can, then yeah,
Yeah,
there's
by
no reason
by
for that.
capitalizing, it's not like opportunities fading, but like always putting stuff that's relevant to the time and then also relevant to the meta and also engaging in what people want to look for, right? Because I could just be doing like random videos about decks that don't matter or decks we don't have or stuff like that, and that kind of stuff wouldn't be as interesting. where kind of there's like this hidden reputation of like, oh, all of his stuff is good, you know, which I kind of like. So you have to keep that up, right? If you start slacking in terms of like dropping the quality, that's when things will, you will lose that reputation. So that's what I mean. Not,
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool. That's good.
all right, let's get talking about the Twitch Rivals tournament. So this was last week. There were two tournaments, 2 days, February 24th, which was, usually when we do the podcast, and
Yeah.
also February 26th. So it was really only for affiliates or partners, and it was kind of like a priority system where if you were known streamer, they would like leave a spot for you basically. And I like reserved my spot fairly late, and I still got in the first wave. So I was like, oh, that's. I mean, I guess I understand, right? Because they're trying to get people that are known or so or good in the scene. But it was still like, huh. And I feel bad for the other people. But um it was a wave. They were trying to get 124 people, I believe, or 28 people, but
128. Yeah.
yeah, but only got up to 64, which is still a lot of people. And um then you had the groups of 8, and it cut it down in half and half until you got to the 8, and that was the finals. But overall, decided to participate because I was invited by Shady. I only participated in the February 24th one just because I felt, doing two back to back when I was still trying to focus on Snap was like a little bit weird. So I just wanted to put my best foot forward for the first one and then see where that one takes me. How about you? Before we talk about the games and stuff, just like participating in the round.
Right. Well, I just saw it being posted on Reddit by Frodo,
Oh, did
and I
you?
was just like, "Oh, okay. Well, look at this." So yeah, I looked at it, and I was a little on the fence about participating because I am a very habitual person, and
Mm.
obviously the tournament does not perfectly fit my
No,
schedule.
it
How
doesn't.
rude! So it did cause me to stay up really late and like do some finicky stuff where I'm streaming in the morning and I'm taking a bit of a break and I'm coming back and then doing the extra tournament stream and this and that. And but yeah, overall the fun, especially essentially it came down to this. I told myself, I'm just gonna see, I'm gonna tell Collins see if he wants to play. If he plays, I'll play
Is that
because I
what it
didn't.
was? Okay.
Yeah. That was the first. Now, obviously, I played the second one without you,
Right.
but that's probably because I had fun in the first one. I was like,
Okay.
whatever, I'll just go again, right? No, actually, it's because I told RDU I'd play. That's why, because I kind of didn't want to play because it was a bit much. It took about 8.5 hours or so,
Yeah.
and that's on top of my regular day, right?
Right.
So I had my regular day, and I was quite sleep deprived that week, right? That's true. Actually, I have no idea how I got through that tournament. I'm gonna be honest, but more about that when we talk about the actual like rounds and stuff. But yeah, so overall, I was a bit on the fence, but happy I played. Yeah, that's how I got to it.
All right, sounds good. So now we could kind of talk about our rounds, our placement. Um, the first one, I was really I hadn't played Hearthstone
Rusty, yeah.
in like 2 weeks plus, so I was like, ugh, the meta's all changed. What do I do? Undeads are bad again or good again. Um, but I was like, I could win. I believe in myself. And basically, it comes down to I've been playing BGs for like 3 years. Taking 2 weeks off is not going to do anything. Like I still know how to play game, right? So like, it,
Yeah,
at the end of the
exactly.
day, like I'm not really like that worried. But still, it's still good. And I the first games were like motivation in terms of like it's not like the lobbies aren't fully stacked on the first group. Well, not for mine. There were some lobbies where I was like, "Ooh, I don't want to be in that one." But so you got to like do well and really boost that confidence and let that carry you into the next couple of rounds. But I got like what first, second, first, or was it second, first? Yeah. I think it was first, second, first, or something like that. Um, And then the good thing is I dodged Shady. Like I just kept dodging Shady. I was like, "Whew, hardest opponent out of the way. Just keep focused on my game plan." And it was pretty good, pretty nice. There were a lot of like cool games. I think it was definitely a good video to watch if you wanted to like learn like the meta at the time. For I would say for like rank mode, this isn't like it wasn't like necessarily tournament mode because like everybody wasn't the same skill level, right? It wasn't Lobby Legends quality of difficulty, so there were some people you could kind of abuse. Not no offense to them, but there were some people where you're like, I could beat this.
So we're talking about intentionally being greedier versus that player than you would feel comfortable with if you know they were a top-notch player.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
You don't have to say it like that.
Well, right. Oh, sorry. Abuse sounds far better. I agree. Yes,
Thank you.
please continue.
But yeah, I mean, there are some people where you're like, oh, I could probably just level here because I'm not scared, and then you don't get punished. Where some other people, you're like, I can't do that. I'm gonna get hit for 20. So yeah, it did help, and just to kind of get me in the mood. I think it was helpful that it wasn't full stacked because I do think like my playstyle is definitely better for having someone to abuse. I would say like I'm used to the ladder meta. So
Collins needs a little ramp up time, but when he gets going, he's very strong, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah,
Is a
yeah,
good way to put
yeah,
it,
yeah.
yeah.
But did make it to the finals. Then Shady was in that lobby, and I was like, now it's hard, So that was a big difficulty spike there, but still did well overall and had a ton of fun. And I was very surprised that I did as well as it did. So thumbs up to
You wanna
me,
just
thumbs up
you
to
wanna just
Shady.
go, sort of like round by round where we don't have to cover every game, but we had,
Sure,
4 rounds total,
go
I
for it,
believe, right?
go for it, Shady.
Yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, I guess we'll just go back and forth. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So the tournament itself was structured with, 3 games for round 1, and you had a starting total of 64 players.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, in this kind of a format, the top 4 of each lobby advances to the next round,
Mm-hmm.
and it's single elimination. And that if you don't make it through your group, you're out. It's not a Swiss or there's no losers bracket. So you have the top 4 of the 8 lobbies that then advance, and then there's 4 lobbies, and then the top advances there, and then there's 2 lobbies,
Mm-hmm.
and then the top 4 advances there, and then there's 1 lobby.
Mm-hmm.
So those are 4 rounds to get down to your finals. Well, 3 rounds plus the 4th one, which is the finals. The first round was 3 games. And then from then on, it was 2 games, and 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
Originally, the finals was going to be 4, but everybody was so tired that there was a unanimous vote of turning it into 3 games. Although Collins was thinking a little bit like, I have the power to delay this. I could. It has to be unanimous.
I
I could
made
try to
it
get.
3 games out of the kindness of my heart for you. It's like
Yes,
Shady's
that
been going for
that
a
was
long
very
time.
for sure. So as Collins mentions, in this tournament, for the most part, you're going to get an increasing opponent difficulty just on average due
Mm-hmm.
to
Yeah.
your top 4 players survive that lobby, and then you get matched with the other 4 survivors. Not necessarily from a different lobby because there's a reseeding every round.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you have a bracket and then there's opposites end of the bracket working towards each other. It's just you go from 64 to 32 players, and they then get seeded into 8 players lobbies after that. Yeah, so my first round was very. I essentially played it. I'm a pretty good tournament player in that my playstyle lends itself really good for essentially having to fight scrap, right? You fight strong players. You're like, all right, I don't necessarily need the triple or this. I like being strong. So that tournaments really fit that kind of style. So queens are better, Leroys are better, poisons are better. So I essentially had 3 games in a row where I took a very relaxed second place, where pretty much every time I was just strong. and I didn't lose the fight, didn't lose the fight, didn't lose the fight. And then eventually I have one person that went all in and had a bunch of Theos, and then I couldn't beat that.
Yeah.
And then another game, I had like a Putricide that went all in and had a bunch of summoners, and I couldn't beat that. And then like another round, they had whatever, and I couldn't beat that. But very, very casual, very relaxed second places, and that's obviously a guarantee to advance. The funny thing was that uh, I asked Collins how he did after he knew my results, and then he said it didn't matter. I knew he'd placed higher than me because that's that's the only reason he's gonna be like, it doesn't matter. So I was like, imagine getting 3 second places and then still scoring lower than your friend, and that's the kind of shit I have to put up with, guys. It's just like, yeah, 3 second places, but it's not Collins, So.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. Well, we both placed first in our group, but Collins had more points. So yeah. No, that's happened in other tournaments where.
I'm the guy who Shady's worried about, like the one who just goes all in and gets the first. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. So
Collins is the person that wipes me at the end, where after I killed everyone, it's like, oh, this person has an abnormal amount of stats.
However, when I'm in the lobby, you're like, okay, I need to actually try. So you stop doing that. You go.
You can't, right? You can't make 4 Theodores, right? You're probably gonna die before you get going. So, all right. So round 2.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'll just start, and then you can talk about your round.
I definitely
2.
thought the structure was like very unforgiving in that once you get to the second round, there's only 2 games. So if you do bad in the first one, you're so mentally scared.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I was like, oh,
guess what happened? I fire up my first game of the second round, and you just get this unforgiving nature of, first of all, the game, but then the tournament on top of that, because I just had 2 rounds in a row where I felt like my board was okay, but I fought someone very, very strong and the fight didn't go my way. And then, that's 30 damage. So losing 30 damage in rounds where you're just like, well, this is unfortunate. I played to my outs, but I ended up taking a 6th place. And that's dangerous, right? When you only have 2 games and you are the 3rd lowest point scorer in the lobby, that's a problem. Because you at that point, it's almost like you need the people that are in the top 4, you need them to screw up.
Yeah.
Or you need to take first. If you take first, the chance, because there was a bonus. Let's point that out. There was a bonus for entering top 4.
Yes.
You got 1 extra point, so you start out with 10 points for first place, but then it jumps down to 8 for second, so it's not a 1-point drop down. And the same thing for top 4. I guess if it's 8 for second, 7 for third, 6 for fourth, and then you drop down to 4 for fifth. So there is this gap. So I was below that gap. I was 6th place, so I definitely was in a big disadvantage in terms of points. So I needed essentially a first place to advance. So my second game of the second round, I was playing like Collins, essentially. So the game plan changes. If you need a first, you need a first. So second will now do, or at least it was not going to reliably do. If I take a second place, I'm relying on the people that got in the top 4 before me to do poorly. If they did well, then there's a good chance I still don't qualify with my original 6th placement. So I took Malagos out of a bunch of mediocre heroes, with the reasoning that it was a lobby where there was only 1 piece of economy. It was the coin naga, and I was like, okay, with Malagos, I can try to get the coin naga, try to get ahead, try to go 3-on-3, and that's exactly what happened. It took me 2 transforms on tier 1, but I did hit the economy, took the coin naga, used it to go 3-on-3, used my hero power, I believe, to farm Overseer. I'm not entirely sure anymore. Actually, no, I think what I did was I used a Faceless to upgrade into a Doomsayer, and that's how I popped off. I can't remember exactly, but I think it was that. That game definitely happened. So, and that just got me ahead in terms of economy, and I was able to power level. I really like in a lobby, like in a tournament lobby, it's very dangerous to power level. So we're talking tier 6 on turn 8, right? So very, very fast. So I had a board full of demons, I believe, because of the Doomsayer, and I just banked a Bran and a Primal Fin. And I was like, okay, I've this is my muscle memory of back when Amalgadon was in. You go to 6, you get a Bran, you get a Primal Fin, you farm Amalgadon. So now, not quite as powerful without Amalgadon, but you can still pop off on 6 with Seafood Slinger and all that good jazz. And I ended up doing some really creative hybrid stuff with Bran Mecha Jiraxis, half my board demons, half my board Murlocs. So I was gradually preparing the transition. And then at the last possible second, essentially, I rolled a Chronormu, which then finally allowed me to sell my demon shit. So then I turned it into a proper end game board with a fat Chronormu, and then like Queen Leroy, Poison, and that lobby. Honestly, I played out of my mind. I had to, because like I faced Mr. Incredible, and he
Yeah.
had this very annoying board, and
Yeah.
that's honestly a board that kills me a lot in this meta. I've got a bunch of Cyber Drakes, Deflectos, Taunted Necro. I don't care how big your stuff is. I have a million extra damage for free, and I saw it coming. So I was like, okay, I'm going to buy a blaster, but I'm also going to get a Leroy that's buffed so that I can blaster all his shields away. I'm going to assume he has the Taunted Necro because he's a good player. So then after he resets with the blaster killing the Divine Shields, I can also Leroy the Macro. And that's exactly what happened. And that's exactly what I needed. So I killed him. I got advanced to the top 2. And then I fought Bofer in a back and forth. Similar boards, Queens, Leroy, all that classic end game. And essentially I assume my Leroy's just got the better of him, where I got a good hit there and he didn't. And eventually I won. So very close to not advancing there, but I went all in, played really well, and got through.
Yeah, I was kind of screaming at Bolfer at the end. I was like, "You don't need this. You don't need this to climb. Shady needs to win. Like, so what are you doing?" I was like,
Yeah. He wasn't making it easy. Definitely not.
But I had a slightly different time. So the hardest part was like at the first hero selection. It was like Lich Rizal or just bad heroes, and I was like, "Ooh, do I want to play Lich Rizal in this tournament? Like, ooh, I'm rusty. If I mess up, that's a free eighth, and I'm just mentally done, right? Like, I know if I mess that up, it's gonna be hard for me to like recover because I know like, oh, the mistake was picking that and not executing. Da, da, da. But I was like, the other heroes suck, I don't know another line, so I picked it. Went to 3, as you do. Hit the Catherine tier pretty early, like turn 4, and I was like, okay, I can do this. And then ended up running a light spawn composition, and then I hit the fell bat, and I was like, okay, let's go. Problem was Sun Glitter was in my lobby, and she wanted to make it hard, so she ended up killing me, but did get second. And I was pretty happy, second place, like, you're pretty comfy. So, I was like, okay, not eighth with Lich Bazal, pretty good. Second option, hero selection once again was pretty bad. I went with AFK, which is not what everyone would say is the best. But I had a game plan this time. We're going shady style. We're just gonna bunker down, get our top 4, go for it. Ended up going jugglers, which I don't like in this meta, but I was like, all right, I can kill some people, and that's what matters, right? Like, if you kill people, then they're gonna get the eighth, and you just have to hover around, top 4, top 5 to get there. So we just casually went, golden juggler, another juggler, and just shot it down until people outscaled me, and I got my top 4. But top 4, that's all I needed. I was pretty happy with it. I wasn't really fighting for top. I could have went a different game plan and try to win, but I was like, I don't need to, right? I just needed a top 4. So those were my 2 games there, and I was like, all right, we're comfy. We just had to grind it out there.
Yeah, more relaxed than my all-in
Yeah, for sure.
situation.
I was out early, so I was watching Shady at that point.
Yep. Oh man. Well, that was a memorable round, but believe it or not, the next round is even more memorable for me. I did some really cool things there as well. The probably the peak of my tournament was when I played Varden.
Mm.
So Varden, similar-ish to Lich. It's this vulnerable hero. Now Lich has obviously got a very obvious vulnerability. She taps and kills herself. Varden is this hero where, like, well, your hero power isn't going to provide you with an inherent like tempo advantage or coin advantage or anything like that. You need to decide when you're going to triple and really take advantage of this, and then when you survive, it starts to ramp up. It becomes crazy where once you start duplicating 5 drops, duplicating 6 drops. But a big Varden problem is a lot of people mismanage the triples early. They end up not getting that much out of their hero power, and then they die, and they never get to the point where they can farm the golden Theodore or the golden Bran or whatnot. So I had a pretty scary start. So this time you have to keep in mind we're down from 64 to 32 to 16.
Yeah, people
That's a
are
lot of the
good.
good players
Yeah.
thrown together. Yeah. So I got RDU in my lobby. I got a pretty stacked lobby. So I play Varden and I get the nuttiest tier 4 shop with triple ball. And you're like, yes. All right, good. Come on. Give me the bullshit rolls. I triple it into a rag and I'm like, okay, that's kind of okay because I think I might have even tripled something else into the rag, and then I had the golden ball or so, and then I just played the balls to buff. And I think that's why. Yeah, I think I got that. So got the extra buffs, and everything is going okay. And then I think it's a turn. It's so early. It's like turn 7 or turn 8. I fight RDU, and he's got the classic "I'ma kill you" board with the big ass Four Reaper with all the Mecha Jirax's buffs on it, or like the Wind Fury Divine Shield or whatnot. And it's the I'm always taking 15 here. So RDU puts me in one shot range very early. So then here's the landscape. It's tier 5. I've leveled into RDU essentially being like, this looks scary. I think I'm going to just take my damage because I can roll all I want on tier 4. I'm probably still going to take it.
Right.
Which happened, right? So I get absolutely smacked. So very happy about my decision there. And then on tier 5, I'm just like, all right, gotta get strong. Gotta just, it's now or never, right? Because I'm playing Varden, vulnerable hero, really good in the late game, but vulnerable here. I roll a double Blanchy shop.
Ooh.
And this is where I'm just like, all right, I got to do it. So I juice up my golden ball as much as I can with smoggers and all that. I get it to like low 40s or high 30s. And I sell my entire board. And I think I even like buy this little 2/6 buffer, right, to put on the golden ball because that's plus 12. But then on the Blanchies, it's effectively plus 24, right? So it's like so much multiplying. Every buff on the ball goes times 2, but then because the Blanchies respawn, you can effectively say every buff on the ball is times 4. So that's why I was really like, okay, I think this is going to be worth it. So sold everything, even my brand. I didn't take the risk. I sold everything,
I might
bought
have
the 2
not
blanks.
done that. Yeah.
Yeah, I've not done that in the past, but I was like, I'm not losing my tournament here because this fucking brand takes the vote.
Okay.
So I sold everything, placed the 2 Blanchies on the board, sold the golden ball, had a Leroy already in the hand that I bought from the roll before because I needed to be all in. So then my board going into essentially the fight that's going to determine whether I live or not, I have 3 minions. I've got a Leroy and 2 horses and a queue into Sun Glitters. And because I said it was really early that RDU smacked me. So it's also pretty early I have these 2 giga horses, right? It's the turn after that. So she looks at that board and you can hear it in her recorder. She's like, what the fuck are those horses? So tournaments are crazy where, like, hey, RDU made me do this. I had to go all in because normally would you want to sell your whole board on that stage? Like, no, if I had more health, I would have taken the risk with the brand and all that because, damage can't be on. I wouldn't be able to die yet. But because I'm in one shot range so early because I fought a good player that took advantage of his cards, I had to do the same thing. I had to take full advantage of my cards to be as strong as I could be. And from that point on, it was essentially 2 horses and 5 support. I made like a golden baron with selfless to try and shield the horses. I bought extra Leroy. I did everything I could to just maximize the chance to get divine shield on the horse. I rolled like 2 light fangs later on, and just played Light Fangs for a little bit, just to juice up the Banshees some more. And I ended up winning that lobby by going all in every single turn and eventually getting to a point where I would very reliably get a double Divine Shield on the Banshees, which means that not only do you have at that point like a 50-50 that respawns into a 50-50, it hits it with its Divine Shield, then it hits with its regular body. Then if it dies, it respawns. You hit again with the Divine Shield, you hit again with the regular body. So that's like a minimum of 200 damage at that point, times 2. And then you add Leroy's and all that. And that was just enough to scam my way into a win, because I definitely got some fortunate fights. RDU had a Wind Fury Cleave. My Leroy just went straight in, and I'm just like, oh, no, I needed that. All right, but at that point, I'm top 2, right? So like, that's just to win the lobby, I needed the scam, because like this is what my Leroy's did: kill a Wind Fury Cleave, kill a Shielded Mantis. I was like, oh, Leroy, so good. So yeah, it was a very unfavorable, but I ended up winning. But yeah, that was a crazy game, because I had to do some like really weird play of just like, I'll sell your whole board, right? Just go all in, and then every turn after that was just all in. And then the second game was a Scabs game where I just stole good shit the whole time. Scabs is just so good in tournaments because all your opponents are good, so they buy good cards and you steal good cards. So I stole a Ghoul, so I power leveled, and then I stole a Dinosaur and I power leveled some more. And essentially I just played this high tempo token comp and just tempoed out the lobby and just aggressive, just like this stupid board with like Reborn, Coiler, and just pump AoE damage. And again, RDU in the finals, and again I scam him. He was playing this juiced up summoner build, and my Coiler spawns a blaster and kills like, I don't know, like 100 worth of stats. Well, not 100, but 100 damage worth of stats, right? Because juiced up summoner builds, a lot of the time it's just high damage but low health, right? I killed a bunch of summoners with high damage. So yeah, would have gotten second in both those lobbies, right? Had the RNG not been on my side with those scams, but ended up winning both lobbies, scamming RDU both times. So yeah, that was quite the narrative to go into the finals. And RDU obviously also made it because he got second in both lobbies. So yeah, that was my round 3 experience, Collins. What about yours?
Mine was good as well. Maybe not like that, but first game I had Togwaggle. And we had this little moment with Jay Kirik where he was on Tavern 3, I was on Tavern 3. He just emotes me and he goes to 4 immediately, and I was just like, I could hit him for 15. But he knows me too well. He knows I can't resist. So we both go up to 4 super early. And that pretty much, like, that safety net pretty much guarantees you a good game because you don't take the damage, and then you're just much higher tier than everyone else. So we were able to use that. I didn't abuse that moment as well as I could have. I kind of took the first opportunity or the first competition I saw, which happened to be Beasts. So I just had a Mama Bear and just a Beast comp. And that was really like the extent of my abuse of that level, where Jay Kirik had a much crazier board than I did, and he was just like chilling. But I did end up getting fourth that game, just using that early tempo, relying on the Beast. If I was a little bit more greedy or a little bit more confident, I could have definitely had a much bigger board. I took a lot of damage early after that fight, which was maybe why I was a little bit scared. I didn't want to get early 8th, but still was able to get that top 4 placement, which was I was okay with, but it means I still had to perform in the next game. So second game was a Rat King, and this one was definitely a little bit more interesting, right? I used that Rat King early tempo, get myself a composition, ended up taking I hero powered, got a Ghoul of the Feast, which is crazy they can hero power with Rat King and get a Ghoul of the Feast. But I was like, okay, well, now I can just level. And I got a Light Spawn. So I had Ghoul of the Feast Light Spawn. I was like, okay, well, all right then. I know what to do with this. So I took that ramp. I greeted it out. I found a Mama Bear with a Rat King, or not Rat King, Rat Pack. And I was like, here's my pump. with the Ghoul of the Feast is just like you're not losing the fights. So I was able to pump really hard with the Light Spawn with the Ghoul of the Feast, and then I found like a Magma Lock, which is like, oh, it's an elemental, so it's just it's huge. It starts huge and it just scales. So I ended up having the golden light spawn buff with all these big elementals, and I was like really cruising because I had like a gas coiler, a lot of pumping still, but my opponents were like being annoying, and especially my last opponent, he had this Omega Scam build with he had the hero that respawns a chosen target. He was respawning gas coilers. The gas coilers were spawning eternal summoners, which he had a big advantage for. It was also summoning Leroy's. And I was like, okay, I have like a 95% to win. And I was losing those. There were 2 games where I was like over 90% to win, and I
Yeah.
lost both. And I was just like, is this my life? I was just like, oh my. And I thought I died, but he put me to 1 on the second one. So I was like, okay. It's not over. I thought I lost that game. But then I was like, all right, I tripled everything. I tripled my cleave. I tripled my magma locks. I had like 7 magma locks like that I bought that game. So they were getting real big. And then I also added a blaster to try to, snipe his all the summon stuff that he was creating. I was trying to blast her that way. And eventually, I was able to get a good fight. And I took my deserved win. I was like, damn, I almost lost that one. But it was a lot of rounds. This was a very long game. I think we went almost 20 rounds there where we were just trying to go.
I want to say that, like, I was watching that one, right?
Yeah.
And one of the coilers, I believe the Titus was alive, so it spawned 3 things
Yeah.
with board space limitations. And it was a combination of Leroy summoning.
Yeah.
So it's just like either 2 Leroys and a summoner or 2 summoners and a Leroy. I can't remember. And that was so outrageous. It was like, what? How? That can't happen. Like, holy fucking shit. So that's what like a 5% or less loss looks like,
Yeah.
where somebody casually, gets like,
He got
just
3 free Leroys that fight. I was
Yeah.
just like, oh my
So
god,
ridiculous. So yeah, that was hard to watch, but Collins prevailed. So
Yeah.
hey, we got there.
Yeah, and then the second, so we had the fourth and then the first, so we definitely made it
Yeah.
to the finals. So that was good, and that was my goal. I wanted to make it to the finals, and I was like, okay, I did it.
Not bad for a snap man.
Not bad for a snapper, an old snapper, exactly.
No snapper.
No snapper.
Guys, I wish I had an epic story of the finals as well, but you heard me talk about it where I don't understand how I made it through that tournament. And I guess that's because I didn't quite make it through the tournament. I was on, I think across the last 2 days, I'd slept like 7 hours combined with a lot of interruptions within those 7 hours. So yeah, not ideal circumstances to go into a day where you do your normal stream, and then on top of your regular play, we slap on like an 8-hour tournament. So I reached the finals and I want to play, and I'm just like, oh, my brain's not working anymore. Oh, that's bad. Oh no. And I know that feeling for my streams. And there's not much I can do. I start playing very, very deliberately. I'm just like talking and saying, okay, let's try to be strong. Let's look at the 7 minions on my board. What am I supposed to get? But you're playing with a big handicap and you're playing against people that are very strong. So I did the best I could, but my games were a big blur of just not that beautiful Malagos game that was the entire opposite. Like every decision there was weighed, measured, and good. And here it was just like, I guess this, I'm just trying to spend my gold. And yeah, so you can't really play like that against very strong players. So I got 3 very mediocre results. I honestly don't even remember most of the games. Just did my best, ended up taking a 7th overall in the lobby. So not last, which I think after the first lobby, my goal had become. It was that bad. I was just like, oh boy. And the sad thing was I didn't even rewatch the finals because they spectated me on that first game, and I've been playing so well all tournament. And then I play this Vol'jin game where nothing works. I'm playing some weird ass Murloc Vol'jin. It's a top 8. I'm so sad. So of course, perfect timing to get the spectate on you. So yeah, that was my finals. Like I said, I wish I had this like epic, nice story because it was a cool tournament. I still really liked that I participated, but yeah, those last 3 games were just too much for me on that day, and I fell short there. I wasn't able to play well those last 3 games.
Mine was slightly better. My first game was also very Monka. I just had a bad hero. One of the competitors were emoted me in the game and is like, "Are you on a free to play account?" That's what he said.
Yes, I was going to ask the same thing. Please tell me what your alternatives were next to Tavish. That's 3 really bad ones for sure.
It was not good. I had no good options,
Okay.
so I was just like, "I'll take the armor." That was the decider. I'll just take the armor.
I'll take the easier quest, copium.
Yeah, easier quest. Yeah,
Okay.
so it was just not great, and there's against good players like there's not much you can do if you have a bad start. And we
Yeah.
had like a decent composition, but it just wasn't like competitive, I guess, right? People had way better stuff. Like we had double Fellbat, but we played someone who had golden Fellbat and Fellbat. I was just like, all right, okay, like whatever, like you're just better. So we ended up getting sixth. Second game was, I believe, a little bit more reasonable for me. We were able to play Rat King for the second game. I think, yeah, we were able to play Rat King for the second game. So, Rat King I'm a little bit more okay with, and we went with this really cool scaling composition. Then we hit a Light Fang, and I was like, I guess I'll play Light Fang. But then we hit another Light Fang, and I was like, am I really playing double Light Fang, in this tournament and in these people? And I was like, I don't see another line. So ended up buffing the Trickster, which is why I was like, okay, Light Fang might be okay because I had a Trickster. And then we just like fleshed out the other comp. We had a Deflecto. And then I ended up adding more shields. So I found the undead shield guy, the 6-drop Coulson of the Sun, or whatever his name is. And so we were like Trickster, Coulson, Deflecto. And then eventually I golden Deflecto. I found more mech synergy. I found Buster. So I was like, okay, maybe I want to do something with Busters. So I was selling my other Light Fang comps, trying to make this big Deflecto. I made a poison Amalgadon, essentially, ball of minions, poison ball of minions of orange shield. So I was like, okay, that's nice, right? So I was trying to make another poison because people were out tempoing me, right? Because like I'm just Light Fang scaling. Like they're gonna be bigger than me.
Yeah,
but I found some poison.
There's a big thing here though, where you were putting it all or a lot of it into Deflecto, where without Deflecto, that probably you don't get there, right? Because it's such an incredibly efficient unit to buff.
I wasn't I wasn't buffing the Deflecto that much, and the Busters stole the bust, so it wasn't great, honestly. But I found the Dragon Divine Shield, right? So I was like, okay, 10 attack on my Deflecto, that's great, right? So, and it has shield and it busts everything, so I was able to kind of maneuver there. I scammed some people. I will say I scammed some people to make top 4, to make top 3. I ended up getting second place, which I was just like, with this comp, I got second place. I'm so happy with that. So definitely was pretty good game there. It felt like the universe wanted me to do well. Everyone was spectating me. I was like, okay, what you know about Light Fang comps. And was able to get that. And then the third game, I had a Lich King, I think is where I went with. Wanted to commit to Murlocs early because I didn't really see another game plan. But I wasn't really hitting anything particularly good. It was just random stuff. I had this selfless early, and that was like my target for most of the game, just this one selfless. And I was trying to find some poisons, trying to find some good placements. I hurt Shady in this game, and I felt bad about it. There were some moments where I could have sandbagged a little bit, just to make it a little bit easier. But we weren't talking, so I couldn't really.
Completely irrelevant. So the prize structure, I was never going to increase my prize
Th-
in that stage, right? No
that's
matter what you have done.
that's a good
So
argument. That's
yeah.
fair, but I didn't care.
I remember in this final that I went up against you a couple of rounds and I never dealt damage to you.
Yeah,
And I was like, that's good. That's good. Because Collins has a chance to get better prize
get
money.
Friday.
I
Yeah,
don't.
yeah.
So it was no problem. And
Okay.
like I said, I was so out of it. I was just like, all
Yeah.
right, you get this like very tunnel vision type stuff where you just don't see the big picture anymore. You can't really make the right calls. Yeah, that's
Well,
that's
that's
unfortunate.
fair.
I don't feel bad about it. Yeah.
Ended up finding like a meandering poison comb, and then ended up getting, I believe, fourth place there. And that was okay. That was good enough to get the final results where we tied with RDU, Zorgo, and myself in the top two. But since RDU had a first place and we didn't, we ended up just getting to share third, fourth, and he got the second place. So technically, I tied for second. Like that's it's part of the history of getting seconds constantly. But officially, it's a third, fourth tie, and I'm pretty happy with that overall.
Super solid. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to bore everyone with the coverage of the second
No,
tournament as
no, no,
well.
whatever. The second tournament
I
happened.
played, I got eliminated in round two. There we go.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Congratulations though to Jay Carrick, right? He won the
Yeah,
first one and also top three the second one. Only
super.
person to place in the finals for both tournaments, so definitely well deserved to him. And that was a long one. We really covered
That
that
was
one.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're gonna keep it snippy snappy for
yeah,
the next one. So let's
yeah.
go.
All right.
But that's fun. It's good. This is cool. This podcast is for the battlegrounds enjoyers. So by the way, guys, again, the dates were February 24th and 26th.
26.
So
Yep.
24th, yeah, 24th for the event we just discussed. So if you would like to see those cool games we played, you can go to Twitch and then look through the VODs and use the date, of course, to get to the right VOD. So yeah, feel free to go ahead.
For me, it's like the only Hearthstone in there,
Yeah.
so it's pretty easy. I was looking through them to remember the games actually. So that's awesome.
All right. So we got the February finish for Lobby Legends coming up next.
Yep. So these are just the finishes for February. Just some interesting. I mean, it's a lot of the same people from last month. I guess is
Yep. I have to be honest, I have not kept up. Right? The interest for me is I'll watch Lobby Legends, of course, but yeah, the qualifying period is not that exciting to me.
Yeah, right. That's what that I feel like that's really feels bad, right? Like cuz that used to be like a very big thing where you're like,
Yep.
"Ooh, who's going to make there? Who's going to do that?"
End of the
And
month was a big deal for a lot of people. Yeah.
yeah, and now it's like, well, it's the same people. It's not, and it's 3 months, right? Like you can't. It's hard to keep the interest, or not. It's 3 months,
Yeah.
but like it's hard. Like it's only like it's a 3 month period before you qualify, so it's not like, oh, you're gonna have a tournament for this, right? Like this month, it's like, well, this month is like half a third of it, and then the next month is where it might matter. So maybe next month you might see it, but the
Yeah.
problem is by then like the people are already decided. Like you're gonna know, like it's there's no real finish because like, oh, only Waterloo and Alucard even have a chance, and like those are the only people you can talk about, and everyone else like is not even qualified. Like so, it's
Yep.
definitely a weird system in terms of excitement. You really lose all of that, but those were the finishes for this month. I did want to talk about there was some allegations. There was some little drama, going on. So
There were indeed. There were indeed.
so Pocky was talking about people following the Lobby Legends pushes. It appears that some of the top leaderboard players in Asia and America are getting high gains for their MMR, and it may have affected the February rankings. So It's just some players seem to be getting inflated MMR gains and not punished MMR losses. So it makes it very easy to climb, or not easy. It's not. No, let me tell you, it's still freaking hard to climb, but it's easier than other
Yeah.
people in the
So
similar
let,
situation.
let me let me give you a good analogy
Yeah.
where you see these jacked guys where you're like, oh, they're on steroids, so it's easy. It's like it's not easy, but they wouldn't be that big without steroids. So it's the same thing here where
Yeah.
it's still not easy, but they're on steroids, right? The other guys are not. So they have
Yeah.
an unfair advantage.
Yeah. Um,
Like they still need to play. They need to play a lot. They need to play well. But yeah, so essentially that is the allegation that something fishy is going on. And the only reason we're talking about it like this is because, like Collins mentioned, a bar replied that there is advantage being taken of an MMR exploit, right? So that's very different than just seeing different MMR gains, because there are some improbable but possible explanations where, okay, so let's sketch the picture here where the rank 1 has a record of gaining 77 in one lobby, and then we see another result here, 88, right? These are extremely high returns for a first place finish.
for highest rank, you
Getting
should be
40.
getting like
They're
50
getting 40 or
something.
something. Yeah,
Yeah.
40, 50, like maybe an insane game is 60 or some
Yeah.
crazy shit. But technically, right, they could have been in a lobby with, the
Every
majority of the
other
time.
high MMR player in
Yeah,
the same
right. So
lobby, and then they won, as you
so
do.
we would be more sketchy, or we would be more cautious if there was not this tweet from a bar saying that there is essentially at least a high likelihood of them taking advantage of an MMR exploit.
Hmm.
So they're obviously not going to explain what the exploit is, and even
No.
if they did, we wouldn't explain it either. We wouldn't want to encourage that. But yeah, there seems to be a way to lower your internal MMR. I'm assuming what's going on, which then causes for inflated gains
Yeah.
on the external MMR, and yeah, that's obviously not fair. If you are not losing 140 for a top 8, if not more, when you're rank 1, that's not fair, right? Other people are they're in like the top 5, they get extremely punished for losing,
Yeah.
and they barely get any return for winning, and
Yeah.
that should be the same for everyone. So yeah, that is going on right now. So we could be seeing a change in the finishes, I suppose, where
I
some people
wonder
might.
how that's going to affect things, right? Like, do you just cut their names from the list and then bump everyone up, or do you just keep the same point totals? You know what I mean? Like, oh, he was second, but he should have been third or whatever. Um, so now you're gonna give him +2 or +3, right? Like, I don't know.
What do you mean with second should have
Like,
been
okay,
third?
like, so let's say the first person gets removed, right? The person in
Yeah,
first. Does the second player get the 5 points or whatever it is instead
I
now?
would assume
I
so.
hope so, right? Because
Yeah, I think if you are, yeah, I think if you are removing someone from contention, then it's like they were never there, right? So number
okay,
2 moves up to number 1, and
okay,
number 1 gets the number 1 points.
yeah, I hope they do that. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Um, all right,
Yeah, that I think that would be fair.
moving on. Finally, we do have a patch. We do have a 25.4.3 patch notes, and it's a doozy. Big changes, copium.
Yeah, I mean, some things got changed for sure. I don't want to make it out like it's a mini patch, but it's absolutely not a mega patch, right? So,
Alright.
but we've seen similar things like this before, so this makes me hopeful that this is the stuff that gets thrown at us to appease and be like, don't worry, we're working on something. You're getting something soon, but here, have this for now." That is
First things first, quests are back. Oh wait,
no.
no,
Oh God, yeah,
I
don't do
just
that
made
again.
everyone sad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So there, I'm just going to talk about a line here that makes me think that there's something coming up, because Archdruid Hamul has been temporarily returned to the pool, and
Mhm.
then between brackets just until patch 25.6.
So you're
So
thinking patch 25.6 is really going to change a ton of things.
That's what I'm hoping. Of course, we don't know because essentially, if this is 2 more months of this, I think they did a poor job this meta
Oh, okay.
of managing things, especially with how stupid Chronormu was, how stupid Ghoul of the Feast was. Yeah, but anyways, we can get into it. We can start with the first change.
Okay.
Cinderella's Straight Shot will now only appear in games with undead.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense to me because the main counter is undead, right? Of that
Yeah.
card,
Yeah.
the main reason. Now there are some small things you might ask yourself. Well, I know I used that to kill Reborn Goldrin or this or that. First of all, I don't think beasts need to get countered that hard. It's like leave poor Goldrin alone. Or how many games do you win with Goldrin? You don't need to kill it even harder. And the other one is it's just a filler, so it just feels like it's just a card you roll past so often when undeads are out. Yeah, and then the other we already mentioned, Archdruid Hamul has been returned to the minion pool just until
What's your
25.6.
thoughts on that one?
Yeah, right. So Hamul rewards power levelers, of course, right? So there's a couple really good uses for Hamul. So that was initially their reason for taking it out.
Mm-hmm.
Hamul was too snowbally because the
Yeah.
people that it's like the rich get richer, right? You have an Hamul, you were strong enough to go to 6, you roll Hamul, you get more good shit. Now, there's a couple of cool things with Hamul, right? So the most notorious one is to buff elementals with a Nomi or a Light Spawn,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and then have Felbat, but then keep enough elementals so that the Hamul spawns only elementals,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have 2 bats, you eat a whole shop of elementals, and it's glorious, right?
This was my favorite thing. That was my
So
favorite
good,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
nutty amount of stats. This also works really well when you're playing Murlocs and you have a brand and you
Yeah.
just get a bunch of shops
It
and
also
primal.
works well with pirates. There's so many things where you're like, yeah.
Well, I'd say those are the main things. There is one really dodgy thing with this, and that is if you have dragons, because the chance that you roll 2 Chronormos is real.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to get to the Chronormo change in a bit, but let's just say you're not unhappy when you roll 2 Chronormos in the same shop. So that's definitely a thing that I think you should try for 2 gold, right? Let's say your main aura type is dragon. Buy Hamul, play Hamul, try to get 2 Chronormos because that will still double your amount of
I love
stats.
how you're like, that's the only dodgy thing. Like when I think this whole card is dodgy. This whole card is full of
Well, I
dodge.
mean, spawning 2 Chronormos just has to be way crazier than anything else, I think.
I mean,
Um,
the Felvat eating is pretty crazy.
feel
Come
like when you get to
on.
that point, it's like you're already like, well, poison me or die, right? I don't think it
Yeah,
changes
but
that.
there's no Murlocs. Like that's why you're doing that. So it's die or
Yeah, but
die.
these days, Queen, Queen, Leroy, Leroy, Puffer, Puffer,
Yeah,
Selfless, right?
we go Blaster Baron. Come on, I got
Yeah,
that.
yeah, but I mean, maybe some amateur scammers haven't buffed their Leroy's HP, but
Uh,
you need the golden version, right?
uh,
So, and you don't have that much gold when you're playing this comp, right? If all that stuff. Anyway,
what are you talking about? I have a ton of gold. All I do is roll. What do you say? I
all I
can.
do is
All
roll,
I do
roll,
is
roll.
yeah. No matter what.
Okay, sure, sure.
um,
All right, you want to tackle the ghoul change?
yeah. Go to the feast. So this one is a pretty big nerf. They're doubling the almost. I guess it's 1.5. It's going from avenge 1 to avenge 2, which is a big deal. It's getting 1 health. That doesn't really matter. But now it's give a friendly minion of each type 3 attack. This is kind of what I thought it was going to be after
Yeah.
reading it initially. So eventually it got there, but it took too long in my opinion. But I do think this is a noticeable change. This is going to matter a lot, and it's going to feel a lot more balanced in my opinion. So
It is. I will say that certain boards it will still feel
doesn't
like an
matter.
unfair.
Yeah, I feel I
I
can.
think when there is a risen rider on the enemy board, you're
Ah,
still going to 100% proc their ghoul, potentially more than
I see what you're
once.
saying.
And early in the game, a ghoul that procs is just really, really strong. So yes, way weaker overall, less frustrating overall. But if they have a taunt reborn, you're like, well, that's probably gonna proc. And then like a lot of the times, 1 or 2 procs is all you need to win that round and deal a lot of damage. So I think the card on itself is just kind of BS, right? It's just so much attack so early on. Um, yeah,
Would
well,
you
we'll
would
see.
you keep it +2 attack then? because that'd be like the final change. If this is
That'd be
still
like
too much,
a
yeah, I'm
gut
like,
punch,
geez.
right? Yeah, I am happy trying this.
Okay.
I'll put it that way. I'm happy trying this, see how it feels. But yeah, just from a feeling point of view, Risen Rider in this thing is still really stupid. Right? It's still really hard to deal with. But yeah, it's because it's perfect, right? It's Avenge 2 and Risen Rider guarantees
Yeah.
Avenge 2. So yep, yep. But yeah, we'll see. This is definitely one I need a little bit more data on. I need to
Yeah.
play a bit more, see how
Yeah.
it feels.
They're nerfing Legion Overseers, going from a 4 attack 4 health to 4 attack 2 health. I think overall that's fine. This card was very strong still, so I don't
That's
have a
fair.
problem with it.
I still rolled it today. I still bought it today. I still liked it today. So
Yeah, I think
I think yeah, you had to remove a little bit of the upside of this card
yeah.
because there was no
Cro-
downside. You
yeah,
saw this, you bought it, you played it.
yeah, I completely agree. Chronormu is now going from a Tavern Tier 4 with 4/4 to now a Tavern Tier 5 with 6/6. Don't know if you need to buff it, honestly, but it's now a Tower Tier 5. We kind of talked about this last podcast where we kind
Yeah.
of guessed this might happen, and we weren't happy with a change like this overall. That was the impression I got. Where
Yep. Yeah. So essentially, I hoped they weren't going to do this change, but I'm also going to be fair in a little bit and then say how my experience was today. So the main problem I have with this is that you're not changing the effect of the card. When people roll it, it still does what it did before. So you still get to consolidate your early stats. The big difference is you can't do that on tier 4 anymore. So that has a twofold effect. Like number one, you're reducing the number of copies in circulation because tier 5s have fewer copies in tier 4,
Mhm.
two of them to be precise. Now, the other one is that because it's on 5, people have just fewer turns to find it,
Mm.
where on 4 you have more chance. And at the same time, there are not always games where you can go to 5 early, so it could be a significant amount of turns where you're just not eligible to roll Chronarmu. So those two things combined have at least led me today on my day 1 to only lose to Chronarmu 2 times. Which sounds like I'm taking the piss, right? When I say like, "Oh, it's a good change. I only lost to this card twice today." But the last few weeks were just dominated by this card where I was like, "Well, if I roll Chronarmu, I'm fine. I didn't, I lied. Oh, I rolled Chronarmu, they didn't. Oh, they're gonna die." It
Mm.
was really binary like that in a lot of my games. Roll Chronarmu, good game. Don't roll Chronarmu, bad game. And it's also very normal when you think about it. If you get to have a 40-40 or a 60-60 in the back and other people don't, your game's going to be better. That's pretty simple. And especially at high level, it's not hard to refill a board with how good Leroy is, how good Queen is, how good, players in general at that high level are at making an effective board, allowing them to consolidate their stats. It's just going to make a very big difference between the people that have it and the people that don't. And that's just what I really don't like about this card. It really feels like you're at a massive advantage if you rolled it, and you're at a disadvantage if you didn't. But I did also want to be fair, and I said, yeah, I think the amount of stupid reduced. Right? There's fewer stupid cases where I'm just like, oh well, I die because they rolled this card, and because I wasn't able to connect with a Leroy, a Queen, or a random poison, I lost to it. It's just disheartening to see this unkillable minion on your opponent's board,
Mm.
and you're just like, okay, well, I always take the Chronormo damage here. So this card actually made me not want to level to 6 as much because it's like it took me too long on tier 6 to outperform their Chronormu, which is kind of a dumb thing. Whereas like I need many turns with my 6 drops to outperform their 4 drop. Like it should probably not be that way. So they changed it, right? So now it's a
Mhm.
5 drop.
Mhm.
And the yeah, I guess that's it. I don't need to go in too much in depth. So I don't want to really completely shit on the change because, to be fair, it got better.
Mhm.
And I think that's also normal, right? There's fewer copies,
Mhm.
and you can't do it on tier 4 as this pick me up 2 power level. But if you go early 5 and you roll this, it's still the same. You still get really strong. You still get a lot of stats you shouldn't have, and you kind of get to do whatever you want for a few turns
This is
after that.
technically good for me, so because I go early 5 every game, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah. Well, I
like
mean, this gives me more. I was doing a lot of power leveling in the last few weeks, but I think that was part of it as well. Like I started doing it less in dragon lobbies. I was just because of how good it was to be on tier 4. Um, so I do think that because I had it today where I rolled it and it felt unfair.
Hmm.
Absolutely, because it was like, oh, other people don't have it now. So that we do create that. We do create the thing where if you hit it now, it's almost
Even
more of an
better,
advantage.
yeah.
Yeah, because you know other people are probably not going to have it. So yeah, I just this might also just be the way how I interpret it because not everyone shares the same opinion, but I think it is definitely the majority of streamers that I've spoken and that I've seen. They do not like this card. They do not like that you can just consolidate your stats, and that the most thing that the biggest thing that matters is whether you roll this or not.
Hmm.
And then nothing of the fringe case scenarios was adjusted either, where I can't believe that you can still roll 2 Chronormos and just double your stats for no
Varden
good
buff,
reason.
baby. Let's go.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for Varden, I don't think it's a buff because it's harder to get to 5. But if you get to 5, it's more consistent because it's fewer
Collins
5.
playing Varden buff, baby. I'm always
Yeah,
on
yeah,
5.
exactly. Like if you can
I was
survive
like,
until
damn, I
5.
can't level to 5 with my Varden. That was what I was doing. I was like, I can't
Yeah,
level
yeah,
because I want
yeah,
it.
right, right, yeah. I didn't like that, by the way. You told me like, "Oh, I didn't roll it and then it died." It's like, yeah, you could just level with Varden, dude. You don't have to roll Chrono.
Well, now I could level and I'm justified. Like,
Right.
hey, okay.
Exactly. So yeah, TLDR, it's a positive change, but I would have preferred the card to just leave. Because yeah,
Yeah.
I
It,
just don't think it
it
should be
it
possible to do
it's
it
a
normally.
better change overall, but it makes for a less healthy experience, I guess is how I would translate it. Because when the people do hit it, like it's even more unfair because you don't have a
Yeah,
chance to
it's
counter it.
more annoying because you
Yeah,
don't have your Chronorma to try
yeah.
and combat them. Yeah. All
All
right,
right, moving
Magma
on.
Lock.
Magma
Yep.
Lock loses 2 attack and 2 health, going from a 3/3 to a 1/1. I really don't think this matters like at all. Like I feel like
It's gonna shave win percent off the cards the same way that like putting a big Fernal from 4/4 to 6/6, right, made it better. So
okay.
it's not going to fundamentally change how you play Magmalock. Agreed, absolutely. A board that is amazing for Magmalock, you're still gonna do it. What this is going to do is it's going to make it less likely somebody just randomly picks up Magmalock because it's like not that much downside.
Mm.
Like, let's say you've played 3 cards this turn, it's a 3/3. You put a 6/6 down, you're like, I can kind of tank that. It's okay.
Oh.
If it's a 1/1 and you don't have a good setup, you don't have the brand, maybe Murlocs aren't in, yada yada yada. You're like, do I really want a 4/4 on my board? I don't know. I might just skip this thing.
I see.
So it does that. But
Okay.
yes, in a setup where Magmalock's good, Magmalock's still good. You
Yeah.
got the master, you got the brand, you got the pump. Like, yeah, you don't care about the 2/2 in that scenario. It's for just random picking up of Magmalock.
I see. I see. Yeah. If you can realistically keep it more than 1 turn, it's good. I guess. Like without being
Well, yeah, then
punished.
it depends a bit on the stage of the game, but yes, yes, largely it's about that. Can you support it, and does it do something afterwards? I think a big part for me is like, our Murlocs in? Like that's a big deal. Like if Murlocs are out, I kind of need the master thing, right? It's
Mm.
like, how good is it to really cycle elementals to get some stats? Like when Murlocs are in, like Primal Fin with Bran, and that, I feel like that's where you really pop off.
Mm.
Yeah. Anyways, that's what I think about it. It's not a big functional change. It's just going to make it slightly more likely that you lose a fight by buying it. So you just
Mm.
might think twice.
Okay. Next up, we have Vanessa Van Cleve. This one is interesting to me. It's going down from a 3/7 to a 3/4,
Yeah,
which is a lot of health lost.
it's a big nerf. Yeah, yeah.
You don't
So
sound convinced.
yeah, so what I think again is that we talk about this a lot. How lower MMR players
uh,
flat stat gains get way better the lower you go.
uh-huh.
Jiraxis was a house, right? On low MMR. We're like,
Yeah.
yeah, baby, let me get that demon buff in. And I think that's what's happening here is that just gaining 2/2 for attacking was too easy and too free on low MMR.
Mm,
Now on high level, new Vanessa is solid. You'll play it, but it's not your end game.
mm.
No end game includes going, hey man, Vanessa engine. Let's higher level players are just too good at making stats otherwise.
Unless you're
Like you're
playing Alec here. Let me toss it. Alec here.
Yeah, but even then, that gets sold at some point, right? But
Golden Vanessa, baby. Let's
I
go.
know, I
It's
know. Okay, well,
it's
there
plus 8. I can't. I mean, that one is kind of good.
yeah, no, 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 no. I and really nice, but I mean, there's gonna be a point where like I kind of want to just trade this into Chronormo and play like queens and Leroy's because it's just better.
Ah, yeah, Kanermo, sure. Like that would.
Right.
That's not for
Yeah, yeah,
me.
yeah. So, but anyways, yes, of course, there are cases where you can do extremely well in the mid game with this powerful Vanessa Rip Snarl setup and all that. So, but I like that. I like that now. I was actually buying a Rip Snarl because I like buying Vanessa, and I was just like, yeah, okay, I can do that. And then I can either transition out of it, or I can, like do Chronormo stuff, or I can do Hogger stuff or Eliza stuff, this and this and that. Now, there's a lot more risk attached to buying this card because it's a 3/4. A 3/7 that gets hit doesn't always die. A
Yeah,
3/4 probably dies. So
yeah.
also a 3/7 probably survives when it attacks and buffs itself. A 3/4 probably doesn't, or not always. So yeah, I feel like this is a low MMR influence decision where
Mm.
it was too free for not really having to do anything. Like the less efficient you get with your gold, the better a flat buff becomes. And yeah, like a pair of Vanessas might just win games on lower MMR.
I could definitely see that. It's interesting
Especially,
that they didn't revert the stat buffs, though. Like, so they were happy with that. It's just like it survived too much. I assume is
yeah, I just okay. So from my lobbies, that would be one of the last cards I would be like, God damn it, I'm tired of losing to Vanessa. Right? It's just like it's that didn't really happen. So I'm just trying to speculate here on like, okay, why on earth is Vanessa getting nerfed? Like I like the buff, but like I just don't do that. I don't look at someone's board like, it's got Vanessa's, it's over. So
That's
yeah,
fair.
yeah.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's my theory that
All
it's just
right.
the lower MMR thing.
All right. Next up, we've got Jelly Belly, Jelly Bean. It's gaining 1 health. Now it's playable, right? Now it's nuts.
Yeah, so these last couple changes, like a lot of them to me don't make that much sense because I feel like okay, so I guess what this does is it makes it easier to buy Jelly without a reborn.
Yeah.
Because Jelly with a reborn is really good.
Really
That's
good.
a lot
Yeah.
of tempo. Like I had a game where I had like 2 reborns and 2 jellies, and I'm just like, oh my god, I'm just destroying everyone. Just
2
you know,
reborns and it's a 9-12. Like, what is that?
it's so yeah,
Uh,
so nasty. So yeah, I think this is purely that the card was either, too low win rate or wasn't picked enough. And they just kind of, I generally go back to Big Fernal because I think that's one of the first cards where they kind of just be like, you know what? What if we make Big Fernal a 6/6? You guys want to buy it? And I was like, it's actually not that bad as a 6/6. Like
mm,
I could take it, maybe get some synergy. And I'm guessing that's the plan with Jelly. Like, let's give it 6 health. You might just buy it, and then you get a reborn. It's suddenly you're okay with Jelly. But yeah, I was already playing Jelly quite often. If I had a reborn, I was very,
yeah.
very happy with this card. So
Yeah.
feels a bit misplaced.
Unnecessary. Yeah. I feel that as well. And we
Next,
got
next card, same
Ground
thing.
Shaker.
No,
Right.
no, just look at that stat line.
What?
I said, look at that stat line.
Yeah, I know. I saw. I've read this. Oh, okay.
All right.
Yeah. 3-8 for Ground Shaker. What is going on? I don't understand this one. Like,
Exactly.
what are you doing? Because it seems so.
Same thing here, where I feel like this is just, hey, Quillbore aren't played enough. Let's make it a 3/8. So now, when you roll into it with 0 synergy, you might consider buying it.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
I guess
it's good already.
I
Like,
agree. I play this card quite often, actually. I'm still very happy with this card. So that's why I said these last cards, like Vanessa Change, didn't make that much sense to me. Jelly did not make that much sense to me. And Ground Shaker, I still, especially with how the new Prophet works, right? Well, it's not been reworked that recently, but with not being limited to 1 gem per turn, like you can do some cool Ground Shaker stuff, and you can, at least you could do it with Chronormo on 4, right? And now Chronormo is out, but Cyborg Drake, right, is also a nice addition for Ground Shaker stuff. So I guess there's just not enough Quillbore action, and they just want to incentivize that. And again, I'm not really gonna give them a lot of shit for like, I can't believe you made Jolly a 3/6, but it's just
Yeah, I see what
it
you're
feels a
saying.
bit off, and the same thing with Ground Shaker feels a
Yeah,
bit off.
yeah. It feels like they're not like hitting the right targets. Like they have the goals, and they're like, okay, we need to fix these issues, but then they're
Yeah.
missing their shots. You're like, oh, let's just buff Ground Shaker. Like, okay, why are we doing that? But I mean, we'll have to see. But and it's not like the game changes fundamentally with this buff on any of these cards. It's just weird because it feels like there's more elegant solutions, but they just don't know what to do to make it more elegant.
I hope that this is more of a you remember when they did a patch and they were like, "Oh, we can't do
Oh
that. We can
yeah,
only change the numbers."
like
Was
the
this
light
weird thing, right?
spawns
I
patch.
maybe this is the same thing where they can only change some numbers, but then again, Grease Spots now. Well,
Yeah,
okay, I guess you were also kind of just changing numbers around here, right? Yeah. All right. Anyways, yeah, well, we'll see, guys. But yeah, I'm still hopeful that in not too long we're gonna see, like this going back to the start of the patch notes, just until patch 25.6, where they say like, okay, we're putting Hamul back in temporarily. That makes me hopeful that hopefully in not too long from now there's a bigger shakeup
there's
than
a
this.
huge copiuming. I can
Cope, yeah,
guarantee.
you massive amounts of copium. I gotta reorder some copium after this podcast.
Yeah.
Uh,
But
okay.
we do have Fel Stomper also getting adjusted, so it's losing a health, but it's going from after you summon a minion in combat, give your minions +3 attack. So isn't that what it originally was, or
Yep. Yep.
okay,
Originally was 3 damage, and then
nerf to 2?
did kind of this huge round of nerfs, right? But Undeads and Fell Stomper got nerfed there as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
It was kind of dumb at that amount of damage, and I gotta be honest, I still need to play with it a little bit more to see how I feel about it.
So we're not fully sure whether this is the right approach for Cell Stomper, but
Well, I was yeah, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
they did think it needed some level of buffing, essentially.
I will say that I was not playing or seeing that many Fell Stomper comps myself, so it
Okay.
might very well be justified to say like, "Hey, you guys aren't playing this enough. Let's make it a bit stronger. Maybe you do want to play it now."
Yeah, yeah. My opinion personally is I think this is probably okay.
Yeah, yeah, it doesn't jump out to me as problematic right now.
Mm,
Absolutely not.
okay. Sounds good. And then Greasebot, our best buddy.
Nope.
It's going from here it out Tavern Tier 4, 4 attack, 7 health. After a minion loses Divine Shield, give it +3
It
+2
went
permanently.
from 6, right?
Oh yeah, Tavern Tier 6, sorry. And now it's Tavern Tier 4. With 3 attacks, 6 health after a friendly minion loses Divine Shield, you give it +2 +1 permanently.
Yep.
So, what's your thoughts?
Well, this is full circle. This is where the card started. The card. So I remember the podcast where we discussed the original Greasebot change when it was moved from a 2/1 to a 1/1, and we both were like, that wasn't needed. Right? Like,
Yeah,
sure,
yeah.
people were doing Greasebot things. And again, flat scaling, right? To me,
Yeah.
it felt like this was not a high level problem, but people on lower MMR were putting a bunch of shields on their boards, staying on tier 4, playing some grease spots, and winning because it's flat scaling. And it's
Yeah.
like, hey, that's not so bad actually. So I had no problem really with the original grease spot, and this is original grease spot. I feel like it's strong enough that you could still do some dumb George shit, right? But George has been pretty bad for a while now. So, well, I wouldn't say pretty bad, but it's so unlikely you get a good George lobby, right? Because there's
Yeah.
like undead tokens, there's beast tokens, there's demon tokens. There's so many tokens right now. So you got to hit the nuts to get a good George lobby, which is essentially no tokens. But now suddenly mechs are in. That's one of the tokens. You're like, okay, that's not so bad because I can play grease spot.
Now,
Original was 2/1, I believe.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 2-1. Yeah, original was 2-1. Do you like this change? Like, is this something you're like, okay?
So one card that I am a little bit afraid of in combination with this is the Cyborg Drake.
I think
Is
that
that
makes sense.
yeah, triple into Cyborg Drake, roll into Greasebot on 4, play Deflectobot. That might be a little bit too much free shit, right? You're getting the +2/1 for free, you're getting the +2 +8 attack for free. That's a deflectobot that comes in with 3 attack with the cyborg drake. That's 11 attack with 1 attack that goes up to a 13 attack deflecto without anything dying yet.
Mhm.
So that's the only thing right now. And then obviously, George Greasebot is probably
Yeah, I
still going to
mean,
be.
whatever. Like that. Let George
Yeah,
have this. Let George. He's
let
been
George.
crying for
Yeah,
you for a while now. Let him have it.
yeah. Ever
Uh,
since the net patch,
yeah,
George not been too happy. So
yeah.
yeah, overall, I'm at least very pleased to try this out.
Mhm.
And then I don't think it's very likely I'm going to be coming back in a week or two and be like, God, man, there's grease spot everywhere.
I
So yeah,
I'm wondering like what I really miss about Greasebot is it having Divine Shield. That's like I
that
missed
was
it. It was
broken.
broken. But I missed it. Like what if
uh,
what if you make it Divine Shield included but +1/+1? You know?
yeah, just make it like not good enough to just pop off because that was the rivals meta, right? The
Yeah,
old like the
yeah,
rivals
yeah,
meta
yeah, yeah.
when we went to was it Amsterdam, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. There that was the meta at the time.
Mm.
So you would do stuff like was it Zerus into Greasebot? Was Zerus in? I don't know. I think so. I think you could do some Zerus into
You
Greasebot.
go like Galakron Greasebot. That should
Yeah,
be
that too.
fun.
But I feel like there was a time where there was also Zerus and I Zerus the Greasebot or some
There was
shit.
a Zerus, yeah.
Yeah. I think Zerus was in, right? For a little while
For
at
a little
least.
while,
So anyways,
yeah.
yeah, I remember that. I remember going 3-on-3 buying Zerus and getting Greasebot. That's so stupid.
It was
So yeah,
stupid.
that was dumb because then it shields itself and it buffs itself. Yeah, okay. Well, so not the smallest patch, of course, right? Lots of balance changes, but not something where you say, oh, this is a giga meta breaker. The biggest nerf for me is Chronormu moving from 4 to 5. So
Right.
just less Chronormu. It might give a little bit more breathing room to other strategies where I have this perfect example of a game where I'm playing Baroff and I'm on 6 and I popped off with demons and I got the double Felbat. But let's see what my health was, right? I think my health was like just about lethal, where I had 13 health or so. And I fight the Varden on tier 5 and he has 2 Chronormus. And
Sounds good.
yeah, both Chronormus had 70 health. And it was too early in the game. And I died with 2 Felbats on my board. And I'm just sitting there like, oh, okay.
Dude,
So
I feel it
yeah,
too.
exactly, right? That to me is like the Chronormu just smothering other strategies. Like, did you try to do something that's not Chronormu? That's cute. Now die, right? Like, what do you mean you didn't have Leroy in the early game for my 77 health minion times 2? So yeah, I feel like Chronormu was just limiting other strategies a lot, where it's like, well, you could try to do this thing, but have you considered trading all your stats into one big minion and then
You
having
know,
minions?
Snap kind of has that issue too, essentially, where it's like, oh, are you not playing like Shuri or Thanos? Well, now die.
Yeah, it's like, that seems like a bad decision. You
Yeah,
should
yeah.
probably lose. Yeah, exactly. That's how it felt when you lost to good Chronormu boards. It's like you don't have a free big ass dragon on your board. Well, then lose. So yeah, good change overall in that it's less problematic. But yeah, I would have liked to see a stronger signal and just say, okay, we've removed this from the pool because we played around with this and it doesn't work. Now, still, that's an opinion, right? I think it's an opinion shared by a lot of people, but it's still just an opinion. There might be too much return here from more casual players that are just really loving this mechanic because it's an interesting mechanic. It's a cool mechanic. It also happens to be a very abusable mechanic at high MMR. So that's usually the problem where it's like that video where the square things goes in the square peg, the round thing goes in the square peg, the rectangle thing goes in the square thing, and it's just like, what do you do here? A Chronormu. But what do you do here? A Chronormu. What do you do here? A Chronormu. Right? It's just like high level players just abuse that shit, right? And be like, I'm just Chronormu, right? So it's like, no, you're not supposed to play it like that. You're supposed to like do it with like buff your tavern and this and that, and you're supposed to only do it when you're playing dragons. It's like, and high level players, just Chronormu. Chronormu with Queen, Chronormu with Leroy, Chronormu with Murlocs, Chronormu with Demons, Chronormu with Undead, right? Random 150 health unit in the back with Undead, not so bad.
Yeah.
So that's the feeling I got, where the devs might, want you to play it a certain way, and then high level players like, nah, I'll just play it with everything.
Yepers. That is
Yeah.
true.
Okay. All right. This was a long one for our standards these days. Now that we're in a bit of a drought, right? But I guess we had a lot of content to talk about this
Yeah, I
time.
mean, if they make content, we talk about it, right? Like, it's not our fault. We're innocent. We're just the messengers here. The length of the videos is more a statement on Blizzard itself than us.
Well, to be fair, about an hour was Rivals or something, right? So,
That's true.
so yeah, we had a lot of stuff going on. This was fun. I enjoyed myself.
Yeah. All right. Sounds great. Thank you guys for joining us here today. Hope you guys had a wonderful, beautiful time. You can find us on Educated Collins and Shady Bunny live on Twitter and Twitch and YouTube as well. We've been doing some YouTube stuff. Send us feedback at hsbgpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll see you on the next one.
Have a good one.
Any final words, by the way? Anything else you want to say?
Not that I could think of. I think I left it all.
All right, he's done. Let's go. Bye-bye.